of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, Punishment and Reward for Kali. So we'll resume our discussion from verse 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jaya udirayet nashtapresho bhadresho nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttam shloke bhaktir bhavatir naishtike Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschatya Deshitarane Mukam Karoti Vachanam Pangum Langate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Deen Krishna Paramanandam Madhav 117.29 Tam Jagyam Shom Abhipretya Vihaya Nripalanchanam Tatpadamulam Shirasha Samgad Bhaya Vihala. When the personality of God had understood that the king was willing to kill him, he at once abandoned the dress of a king under pressure of fear and completely surrendered to him, bowing his head. So in the previous set of verses, we see Maharaj Parikshit arriving to the place of conversation between Dharma and Bhumi Devi, and then witnesses a Shudra dressed as a king, who was the personification of Kali, beating them both with a club. And then there is a conversation between how Parikshit Maharaj reassures Bhumi Devi, interrogates or inquires from Dharma as to who his perpetrator was. There is a deep philosophical conversation between the two, in which they discuss about the philosophical aspect of determining who is the actual doer. And Dharma presents different doers, including the supreme doer, Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj concludes that this bull is none other than the personification of Dharma, and then he turns his attention to Kali. So turning his attention to Kali, he now is ready to kill him, because he is clearly doing something that was considered to be very, very sinful, especially in the rule of Maharaj Parikshit, that he was trying to kill a cow and a bull. So Maharaj Parikshit takes out his sword and he turns towards personification of Kali. And then we concluded with that verse that Maharaj Parikshit was expecting that Kali, on seeing the sword, and given the fact that Kali himself is dressed as a king, would do what is expected of Raj Dharma or Kshatriya Dharma, take up his own sword, engage Maharaj Parikshit in a battle. And Maharaj Parikshit, being a great warrior, he was confident that he would kill him with valor. But now we see Kali acting in a different way. We see that when the personality of Kali understood that the king was willing to kill him, he at once abandoned the dress of a king and under pressure of fear completely surrendered to him, bowing his head. So Kali thought that I'm dressed as a Kshatriya and it is against Kshatriya dharma to surrender. Yet, it's not possible for me to fight with Maharaj Parikshit. So Maharaj Parikshit's fame as a warrior, as one who could fight unlimited number of warriors, who was comparable to Arjun in his skills with a bow and arrow. So Kali knew that he could not fight with Parikshit Maharaj. So he says that best for me is to abandon the pretense of being a Kshatriya, and in order to protect myself, I will immediately surrender to him. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, in the age of Kali, there are so many pretenders dressed and posed like administrators or executive heads. But their real identity is disclosed when they're challenged by a real Kshatriya. Therefore, when the artificially dressed personality of Kali saw that to fight Maharaj Parikshit was beyond his ability, he bowed his head like a subordinate and he gave up his royal dress. Okay, next verse, 30. Patitam padayor viraha kripaya deenavatsalaha sharanyo nivadhik shlokya ahachedam hasanneva. Maharaj Parikshit, who was qualified to accept surrender and worthy of being sung in history, did not kill the poor surrendered and fallen Kali, but smiled compassionately, for he was kind to the poor. So the point is made over here that as a true Kshatriya, it is part of the Kshatriya dharma to not only forgive the person who has surrendered unto you, but to also protect the person. And we see that in the pastime of the burning of the Khandav forest. When Mayadanav surrendered to Arjun, Arjun was trying to kill him. So he not only gave up the thought of killing him, but he was willing to protect him against Krishna. And Maharaj Parikshit, he had the same conception that because the personality of Kali has surrendered, then he's now under my protection. So he's saying worthy of being sung in history. So what does this imply? That he has a character that will be held as an exemplary model for the time to come. So great men not only act for their own behalf, they also act for the behalf of others. So this point is made again by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, where he gives the example of Maharaj Janak and other great people who have transcended the need to perform karma and who are so strongly fixed in Gyan, but they still do not give up karma just to set an example for others. Krishna uses himself also as an example, that if I were to give it up, the whole world would be in ruination. And Maharaj Parikshit is also in the category of a great historic figure. So earlier, Sutta Goswami had, I'm sorry, so earlier when Parikshit Maharaj was asking Dharma to identify the cause of his suffering, so one of the cause that he had given was Krishna. And he had said, indirectly, Krishna could be doing it for two reasons. One, to purify me, and the second, to glorify you. So he gives both the reasons. So Prabhupada in the purport, he makes this point that Maharaj's Parikshit's glory and kindness are therefore sung in history. He was a kind and a compassionate emperor, fully worthy of accepting surrender even from his enemy. Thus, the personality of Kali was saved by the will of providence. So, Prabhupada is making both the points over here. So, the will of providence, of course, is the desire of Krishna. And what is the desire of Krishna? The glorification of Maharaj Parikshit. So, this is what Dharma had also indicated. So, Maharaj Parikshit's situation is described as Hasan Iva. Hasan Iva means almost smiling. And the reason that he was almost smiling, one, that he was pleased that Kali had surrendered to him, which means that because Kali has surrendered, he does not have to worry about Kali. He is no longer an enemy. So when an enemy surrenders, the enemy agrees to do what you ask the person to do. So as a king, Parikshit Maharaj was concerned about his kingdom, the people in his kingdom, about how they would be influenced by Kali. And now that Kali has surrendered, he's happy. So he's smiling. He's also smiling because he realizes that he has been tricked by Kali. So it's he's smiling in anger. That's why it's Iva Hasan. That is kind of like smiling. Sometimes people have the reaction that when they are in the influence of anger, then they smile angrily or sarcastically. So we see that in Maharaj Parikshit, because he recognizes that by surrendering, Kali has tricked him. He's also smiling because he sees Krishna's hand in here. So he's thinking that this entire plan has been enacted by the Lord. Therefore, Kali has been protected from me, even though the best course of action would have been to kill Kali right here, right now. So, as a devotee, even though he cannot understand everything that Krishna plans to do or his motivation, but he can see Krishna's hand. So he's seeing Krishna's hand, and as a devotee, he's smiling. And the fourth reason is actually given by Sutta Goswami in the next chapter, where in 118.7 purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Maharaj Parikshit was a realist, like the bees who only accept the essence of a flower. He perfectly knew well that in this age of Kali, auspicious things produce good effects immediately, whereas inauspicious things must be actually performed to render effects. So he was never envious of the personality of Kali. So he's a realist enough to understand that it's Kali's time. His coming is inevitable. But what does the realist do? The realist tries to look for what's that? There's a proverb that says that trying to look for the positive in the negative, trying to look at the gold in the end of the rainbow. So he's saying that okay, Kali will come, but then there is this big advantage of Kali, that in this age, pious deeds are performed just by thinking about them. But impious deeds, one only gets the reaction when actually performs them. In the previous ages, it was opposite. That just by thinking about impious deeds, one would get the reaction for that. But in order to get the benefit of pious deeds, one would have to actually perform them. So this is a big concession in the age of Kali. We see in the pastime of Lord Parshuram that once his mother, Renuka, she went to collect flowers for her husband, Jamadagini, and on the banks of the river, the Gandharvas were bathing. And the king of the Gandharvas, Chitraratha, very handsome, Gandharvas by nature are very handsome, and the king was exceptionally handsome. So for a small fraction of a second, Renuka's mind got distracted. And then she immediately contained herself, picked the flowers, went back. But Jamadagini, by his mystic powers, he understood what happened. And he considered her to, even though it was very fleeting, and it was just a thought, okay, but because it was that age, so he considered her to have actually performed an act that broke her chastity, which is why he asked Parshuram to kill his mother. Of course, then later on he makes her alive again. So this is why Maharaj Parikshit is smiling, that my people, or the people of the future generations, are now going to easily perform pious activities just by thinking about them. And sinful activities, they would actually have to execute to be held accountable. And the final reason that comes later on in the 12th canto, Maharaj Parikshit is smiling because Kalera Dosha Nide Rajan Astiya Eka Mahaguna Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sang Param Praje. Because in this age of Kali, simply by performing the congregational chanting of the holy name, people will get the supreme destination. So he's saying, okay, something bad is happening, but something much better will happen. So for all this reason, Iva Prahasa, that Parikshit Maharaj was smiling. Next verse, 31. Rajavacha Nati Gorakesh Yashodharanam Baddhanjalir Vai Bhayam Asti Kinched Na Varatit Vayam Bhavata Kathanchan Kshetramadye Tvam Madharma Bandhu. The king thus said, we have inherited the fame of Arjun. Therefore, since you have surrendered yourself with folded hands, you need not fear for your life. But you cannot remain in my kingdom, for you are a friend of irreligion. So Parikshit Maharaj is meditating on the quality of Arjun to protect those who have surrendered. And as we have discussed, Arjun protected everybody, from all the way from Lord Indra to the Brahman and Dwarka, to Mayadana. And Parikshit Maharaj says that we have inherited the fame, which means that as Arjun would have acted, so will I. I am a worthy descendant of Arjun, so you are now under my protection. So Prabhupada in the purport says, the personality of Kali, who is the friend of all kinds of irreligiosities, may be excused if he surrenders. But in all circumstances, he cannot be allowed to live as a citizen in any part of a welfare state. And then later on he says, that is the way of wiping out corruption in the state and not otherwise. The friends of religiosity should be banished from the state, and that will save the state from corruption. So Prabhupada is making the difference between excusing Kali and allowing Kali to flourish. So he's saying he can be excused, but he cannot be allowed to live in the kingdom. So in the earlier times, it's not followed now, but in earlier times, they had banishment as one of the punishment for the crimes. That in certain cases, the criminals, if the crime they had committed was not serious enough for them to be incarcerated or killed, but the person was considered to be one who can have a negative influence, then they would banish the person from the kingdom which in a way was protecting your own kingdom, and basically the person would go become somebody else's problem. So Srila Prabhupada makes this point that Maharaj Parikshit is doing the right thing, that he cannot allow Kali to remain in his kingdom, but because he has surrendered, he has to allow him to live. So the best solution is that he should be banished. Okay, verse 32. Tvam vartamanam naradev deheshva anupravratoyam adharma pagaha logo natam koryam anaryam mamaho jeshachamaya kalahachadambaha. If the personality of Kali, a religion, is allowed to act as a man god or an executive head, certainly irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound. So Maharaj Parikshit is giving the reasons why Kali cannot be allowed to remain in his kingdom. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, as I mentioned, that he also runs an implicit conversation. He interpolates conversation between verses to kind of bring out the nuances of the interaction. So later on, because this conversation is spread over most of the chapter actually, so later on I have extracted the conversation and then we can go over it end to end. So that will give us a more composite view of what's going on. So here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Kali can say that I have already surrendered unto you. Now why are you banishing me from your kingdom? And Parishad Maharaj says that you hear the faults of your nature. Under your influence, Tvam Vartamanam, even devas, what to speak of humans, will give up dharma, will follow the path of adharma. Kali says, how can you say that? And Parishad Maharaj answers, because there are certain qualities that follow you completely, anupravata. When you are situated in amongst men or demigods, puga. So this also indicates that the influence of Kali is experienced in the heavenly planets also. So then Kali says, what qualities are you talking about? And then Parishad Maharaj says, anaryam, inferior qualities. And these are amaha, treachery, jeshta, misfortune, maya, cheating, kala, quarrel, and damba, vanity. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that regardless of any religion that you're following, one should avoid these qualities. So he says that the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, as we have already discussed, may be followed by the follower of any faith. Any faith, he says. There is no need to turn to Hindu, to Mohammedan, to Christian, or some other faith and thus become a renegade and not follow the principles of religion. So Srila Prabhupada is making this point that people, sometimes they jump from one faith to another, thinking that there is some faith under which there is more leniency that is offered to them. Sometimes people from Hindu become Muslim because they hope to marry more women. Sometimes they become Christian because they think that under Christianity it is okay to eat beef and pork. So Prabhupada is saying that that's not what religions are meant for. The principle of all and any religion is to uphold this 4 pillars of religion: austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And the Bhagavatam itself is now, Prabhupada says, is the Bhagavatam urges following the principles of religion. The principles of religions are not the dogmas or regulative principles of a certain faith. Such regulative principles may be different in terms of time and place concerned. One has to see whether the aims of religion have been achieved. Sticking to the dogmas and formulas without attaining the real principles is not good. A secular state may be impartial to any particular type of faith, but state cannot be indifferent to the principles of religion. And this is a very strong preaching point that Srila Prabhupada makes over and over again. He argues very strongly against a secular state. He very, very strongly condemns the separation of state and religion, because he says that if the state is atheistic, the people will be atheistic. If the people are atheistic, then misfortune is bound to follow. So here actually Srila Prabhupada is going one step further, and he says that the state can be theistic without subscribing to any particular religion. It doesn't have to be a Hindu state or a Christian state or a Muslim state. It could just be a God-fearing state. And then implement all these principles that are essential to maintaining the basic piety in a society, to prevent people from doing grossly sinful activities. Okay, we'll do one more verse and then I'll stop and see if there's any questions or comments. Navartityam tadadharma bandho dharme na satyena cha vartitavye brahma brahmavarte yatra janti yagye yagyeshwaram yagya vitana vigyaha vitana vijnaha. Therefore, O friend of a religion, you do not deserve to remain in a place where experts perform sacrifices according to truth and religious principles for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Parikshit Maharaj is continuing with the line of thoughts that he has been expanding with Kali. So in the previous verse, he said that because you embody all these bad qualities, and not only do you embody it, under your guidance, under your shelter, different people will absorb them, you do not deserve to remain. So now Kali may object that I did not invent these qualities. These qualities have been existing since time immemorial. So why are you blaming me for them? And then Maharaj Parikshit refused this implicit objection. He says that in Brahmavarta, which is the planet Earth, dharmena satyena cha, that everybody is situated in the dharma. Dharmena satyena means that in sat dharma, everybody is situated in following the two principles of dharma. So the word dharma itself covers everything. Parikshit Maharaj could have just said that dharmena cha, that everybody is situated in the principles of dharma. So he adds the word satyena to indicate that this is the main symptom of dharma that is being supported in the current age. So if you remember an earlier discussion in the four pillars, we had said that by the age of Kali, only the pillar of Sati remains strong. So dharmena satyena can also mean, so one meaning we had said was dharmena satyena means that everybody is situated in sat dharma, in true dharma, which is also true because under the rule of Maharaj Yudhishthir and the continuing rule of Maharaj Parikshit, it was as if Satyug was there. So Sat Dharma was there. The diminishing effect of the age had actually been reversed. Another meaning also is that even understanding the influence of time, currently the Satya Dharma, the pillar of truthfulness, is actually flourishing. And so Kali might ask that how can you say the dharmena satyena cha? And then Parishit Maharaj says, Yatra Janti Yajer Yajeshwaram Yagya. It's an alliteration of why. Yatra Janti Yajer Yajeshwaram Yagya. Which means that where experts, Vijna duly worships the Lord of Yagyas. The Lord of Yagyas is Yageshwaram by the performing of Yagyas. So Yatra Yajanti. Yajanti is that worship is done. And Yageshwaram Yagya. Of the Lord of the Yagyas, the worship is being done by the performance of Yagya. So that is the reason why Parishit Maharaj is saying that I cannot allow you to stay here. That Sadharma is flourishing. And previously I have already told you that wherever you are there, falsity, lying, cheating, all these things will follow. So in the purport, Prabhupada says that any place or country where the supremacy of the Lord is accepted and the sacrifice is performed is called Brahmavart. So Brahmavart means that situated in Brahma. So one of the meanings of Brahma is truth, situated in truth. There are different countries in different parts of the world, and each and every country may have different types of sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord. But the central point of pleasing him is ascertained in the Bhagavatam, and it is truthfulness. The basic principle of religion is truthfulness. And the ultimate goal of all religion is to satisfy the Lord. In the age of Kali, the greatest common formula of sacrifice is Sankirtan Yajna. So Srila Prabhupada accepts both the possible translations of Satya. So initially he says that the Lord is accepted and the sacrifice is performed, which is Brahmavarta, which means that the Dharma, Sadharma in its entirety was preserved. And then he also ascertains the fact that the last pillar of Dharma. So if you remember, we had said that truthfulness is the basis of all the other pillars. So from truthfulness comes mercy, and from mercy comes purity and then austerity. So truthfulness is the foundation of the building, and at this point he says it is completely present over there. Okay, so let me stop over here. If you have any questions, I had also requested Prem Kishore Prabhu to send out the document which has the notes on the 4 pillars of religiosity. So in case you have read it and have any questions, you're free to ask, or if not, then we can send it by email, or we can discuss it next week. But any other questions based on the current discussion, we can have. Okay, so if there are no questions, we can continue with verse 34. Yasmin harira Bhagavan ijyamana ijyatmamurti yajatam samtanoti kamanamobhan stirajangamanam antarbahirvayu iveshatma. In all sacrificial ceremonies, although sometimes the demigod is worshipped, the supreme Lord personality of Godhead is worshipped because he is the super soul of everyone and exists both inside and outside like the air. Thus, it is he only who awards all welfare to the worshipper. So, based on the statement that Parishar Maharaj made in the previous set of verses, Kali now says that I agree with you that the principles of dharma need to be followed. Now, these very principles indicate that it is the duty of the humans to worship the devas, and I am a demigod. So Kali is factually a demigod. He's considered to be amongst the lowest of the demigods, but nevertheless, he is a demigod. So he said, but I am a demigod. So if you are trying to show that following the principles of the dharma are important for you, then instead of worshipping me, you're banishing me. That does not make sense. So then Parishar Maharaj responds by saying, fine, you're a demigod, but there is someone who is above you, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he says that in sacrificial ceremonies, sometimes a demigod is worshipped, not always, depending on the nature of the ceremony. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped all the time because he's the super soul of everyone. And even when people worship you, effectively, they are worshipping Krishna, and any benediction that you give is actually given by Krishna. So Parishar Maharaj in this verse is making two important points. So one point that he's making, that if the means do not justify the end, then the means should be changed. So while it is recommended that the demigods are worshipped, while it is also accepted that Kali is a demigod, but the end is that there will be chaos and confusion and suffering for everyone. So in this case, it is wise for me to reject the Vedas, because the Vedas are not giving me the desired result. So we see that happening in some other cases also. So what's a famous case in which somebody rejects the Vedas? It's the case of Bali Maharaj. When Shukracharya, he said that as your guru, you have to follow my instructions and not give any charity to Vamandev. And then Bali Maharaj makes a very similar statement that if what is being said does not justify, I'm paraphrasing, but does not justify the big picture, which is worshipping the personality of Godhead, then I reject it. We see the same situation in Maharaj Prithu when he tries to kill Mother Earth personified as cow, and she says that it is irreligious. It is irreligious to kill a cow, to kill your mother, and to kill a woman. And then he says that you're right, they're all irreligious, but yet I cannot stand by as a king and watch my people starve. So your killing is justified. So Parishar Maharaj is making a similar point. That fine, you're a demigod, you're worshipable, but by your influence, people in general will suffer. So I cannot act according to the position that you're trying to assume. And then the second point that he's of course making is that factually speaking, my duty towards you is very small in compared to my duty towards Krishna. Under your influence, people will become irreligious, and that will not please Krishna. Under your influence, people will stray from the path of dharma. They will not worship Krishna. They will not go back to Godhead, and that will make my Krishna unhappy. So I'm perfectly willing to do whatever is needed to make Krishna happy. So because of these two reasons, whatever I'm saying to you is justified. So we see how expert Maharaj Parikshit is in dealing with Kali, both in the terms of the strength of his arms and also in terms of the strength of his intelligence, the strength of his logic. So next verse 35. Sutavacha Parikshit evam adhishta sakali patuhu tamudyastim ahedama tamudyatase mahedama dandapanim evodyatam. Sri Sudha Goswami said, the personality of Kali, thus being ordered by Maharaj Parikshit, began to tremble in fear. Seeing the king before him like Yamraj, ready to kill him, Kali spoke to the king as follows. So why is Kali trembling in fear? Because earlier on in verse 31, Maharaj Parikshit had already granted him protection. What did he say? He said, "Why bhayam asti kinchidna?" That no need for you to be scared of anything now. You're under my protection. But here we see that he's trembling with fear because Maharaj Parikshit is apparently getting ready to kill him. So how could Maharaj Parikshit think about killing him after already granting him protection? On the contrary, Kali should have been felt completely secure. So what we see in the intervening verses, that Maharaj Parikshit has never threatened Kali with death, but he is explaining the conditions under which Kali can live in his kingdom. So as a king, he has the right to determine the condition under which the citizens can live so that they are not a danger to others. Whether he puts them in prison, whether he puts them in some kind of guarded barracks. So he's not killing them. They're still under his protection. The prisoners are still under the protection of the king, but they're living in a place that has been allocated by the king. Now, what happens if a prisoner tries to escape? If the king orders that this prisoner should be arrested, and then the prisoner says, I don't want to go to jail, and disobeys the order of the king. Now that protection that the king has offered to the prisoner no longer exists. Now it is within the rights of the king to kill the prisoner. And in fact, we see that happen. That sometimes when the prisoner resists arrest, then the soldiers of the king, they can kill the prisoner. Sometimes when the prisoner is escaping from jail, the prison guards, they can kill the prisoner, and there is no sin or there is no harm in that. So Parikshit Maharaj has now taken the position that if you follow my instructions, you will be protected. If you do not follow my instructions, then as per the rules of dharma, I can kill you right over here. And there will be no sin attributed to me. There will be no loss in my reputation. So Kali is now trembling because he's understanding the situation that he is in. That he has taken shelter of the king and acquired some kind of protection. But unless he accepts to the terms of the protection, the king is well within his rights and dharma to kill him. So he now is going to act in a way to protect his life and also to accomplish his mission. The purport says, the king was ready to kill the personality of Kali at once, as soon as he disobeyed his order. Otherwise, the king had no objection to allowing him to prolong his life. The personality of Kali also, after attempting to get rid of the punishment in various ways, decided that he must surrender unto him, and thus he began to tremble in fear of his life. Next verse, 36. This is one of the few verses spoken by Kali. Kalirvacha yatra kvavata vatsami sarvabhaumatavagya lakshaye tatra tatrapi tvammate susarasanam. O your majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere under your order, I shall but see you with bows and arrows wherever I look. So he begins by flattering Maharaj Parikshit. He says, you are Sarvabhauma. Sarvabhauma means that you are my lord. And Sarvabhauma means that the emperor of the entire world. So it's not empty flattery. Parikshit Maharaj was factually speaking Sarvabhauma. But he begins by glorifying Maharaj Parikshit. And also this is a segue into his own challenges in following the instructions of the king. So the king had ordered Kali that now you should leave my kingdom. But Kali is saying that you are the emperor of the world. So if you are ordering me to leave your kingdom, there is no place for me to go. So he's saying that, O king of the whole earth, I directly see you in this way. Since all moving and non-moving things are your citizen, and you control the entire world, I do not have any place to live. Therefore, kill me, who has fallen at your feet in front of you with your own hand right now. So he's saying that you're essentially making a mockery of offering surrender to me, because the condition that you're put in is as good as a death sentence. Next verse, 37. Tanme dharma pratam shreshta sthanam nirdeshatam marasi yatra eva nayatvatsya athishtam ste anushasanam. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government. So Kali is now calling Maharaj Parikshit as Dharma Vratam Sreshta, that you are chief amongst the protector of religion. So he's calling him to protect two aspects of his religious practice. One is, if somebody has surrendered to you, you must protect the person. Second is that any person who comes into your kingdom is your citizen, and it is your as a king, it is your right, not your right, it's your duty to protect the person. So Maharaj Parikshit responds, and he says, but I'm standing by my word that I will protect you because you're surrendered unto me, and because you're a citizen of my kingdom, I will still protect you. So in order to invoke this sense of virya, this sense of chivalry in Maharaj Parikshit, Kali uses very strong language. He says, Eva nitya athishtam vatsaye te anushasham. Eva, that most certainly, nitya, always. Nitya means without fail. Athishtan, permanently. Permanently means that not subject to any mitigating factors. Vatsaye, give me a place to live where te anushashanam, I am protected by your kingdom. So he's invoking both the aspects of Parikshit Maharaj. He's invoking the aspect of Parikshit Maharaj as a Kshatriya warrior who is famous for protecting one who is surrendered to him. So he's saying that this is your nitya dharma. You can't have any exceptions. So eva nitya atishtan. That no exceptions. As a Kshatriya, you should protect one who is surrendered. Don't make reasons like you have to live in some place and then through trickery determine that there is no such place and kill me. And then he says, Te Anushashanam, that you're a king. I am a citizen in your kingdom. So as a king, as you have to protect me, and as a Kshatriya, you have to protect. So this also indicates the predominant mood that would evolve in the age of Kali, where people will become expert in using the scriptures for their own benefit. So now it's so commonplace that we don't really get surprised by seeing it, but at that time, it is something that is prominent enough for the acharyas to point it out, that how Kali is expertly using and twisting and turning the various aspects of the scriptures just to suit his own selfish reasons. Verse 38, Sutta vacha abhyatitas tasmai sthanani kalaya dadau yutam panam striha shuna yatra dharmas chaturvedaha. So the Goswami said, Maharaj Parishad, thus being petitioned by the personality of Kali, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. So even though Kali is an expert in manipulation, Maharaj Parishad as a devotee is more expert. And he says, okay, you want protection? I will give you protection. You want places to live? Instead of one place, I'm giving you 4 places to live. And they are gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter. So when Jiva Goswami comments on this verse, he's saying that even though these 4 vices were absent because of the influence of Maharaj Parikshit, but they're still being followed. And then he gives an example. He says that in the Sautramani Yagya, wine is drunk. And Sautramani, he explains, is a special yagya. It's a Havir yagya, and it is performed for protection. It comes in the category of Kokuli yagya, where essentially Indra, Som, and Ashwini are worshipped, and this is associated with the drinking of Soma. So Soma is literally honey. Sometimes they say that Somaras is kind of honey. They call it nectar, and sometimes it's also translated as wine. So, but here, Jiva Goswami is saying that in the Sautramani Yagya, wine is drunk. Then he says within the institution of marriage, sex is being done, and in certain yagyas, the animals are sacrificed, and the flesh eaten. For example, in the Ashwamedha Yagya, the horse is sacrificed, and then the flesh of the horse is eaten. And under certain conditions, gambling is done. So Kshatriyas, as we know, one of the dharmas is Dutya. They are gambling. So Parishit Maharaj, he is being transparent and straightforward, but at the same time he's curtailing the influence of the personality of Kali. And Srila Prabhupada, he explains the difference between these kind of Vedic processes where there is wine drinking or animal sacrifices. So he says that in the Vedas, two different kinds of injunctions are there for the pravratas, for those who are engaged in material enjoyment, and for the nivratas, for those who are liberated from material bondage. The Vedic injunction for the pravratas is to gradually regulate their activities towards the path of liberation. Therefore, those who are in the lowest stage of ignorance and who indulge in wine, woman, flesh, drinking by performing Sautramani Yagya, association of women by marriage, and flesh eating by sacrifices are sometimes recommended. So Prabhupada is saying that in the Pravrati mark, because the men are so addicted to these things, rather than them rejecting the Vedas and performing activities that are completely religious, the Vedas give them some concession. And these are the concession, that in marriage you can have sex, in Sautramani Yagya you can drink wine, and certain kinds of yagyas, Ashwamedha of course is a rare yagya, but there are other kinds of yagya where you can sacrifice animals and eat them, and that is essentially Pravriti Marg. And then Prabhupada says that one man's food may be poison for others. Similarly, what is recommended for those in the mode of ignorance may be poison for those in the mode of goodness. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu therefore affirms that recommendation in the scriptures for a certain class of men are never to be considered as adharma or irreligious. But such activities are factually adharma and they're never to be encouraged. The recommendation in the scriptures are meant to be the encouragement of such, are not meant for the encouragement of such adharma, but for regulating the necessary adharma gradually towards the path of dharma. So Prabhupada has a long purport in this, and he's making this point that just because the Vedas give concessions does not mean that they become dharmic. So one has to see things in the broader context. Sometimes people say that there are yagyas in which animals are sacrificed, and then you say that we should follow the Vedas. So what is the harm in us eating animals? And Prabhupada would say, fine, you follow the Vedic sacrifice process also. You get qualified priests, you go through the process that is required, and then you eat meat. And that is, in this age of Kali, just not possible. So Prabhupada also has he has an interesting set of recommendations to guide people from the Pravriti Marg to the Nivriti Marg. So he points the Nivriti Marg, which does not rely on this gradual purification of the senses through controlled engagement. So, I've summarized it, and this none of it is news to you, but because one of the few purports where Prabhupada gives comprehensive recommendation. So he says that for the general population, there should be compulsory fasting on Ekadashi. So today is Ekadashi. Hopefully all of you are fasting. Prabhupada says that for the entire population, but he says general populace, most of the people, compulsory fasting on Ekadashis. Then he says marriage at a young age. The boy should not be more than 24 years of age and a girl should not be more than 16 years of age. There should be no divorce allowed. One should at least give 50% of their income in charity. And then Prabhupada, in order to justify it, he quotes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave a list of 64 items of bhakti. He stopped at number 35 and spoke 5 particular practices that he said were most potent. Sadhu Sang, Namakirtan, Bhagavad Shraman, Mathuravas, Shri Murtir, Shraddhaya, Sevana. Association of devotees, chanting the holy name, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, residence at Mathura, and deity worship with faith and veneration. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he does not recommend deity worship, but he replaces that with karma yoga. He said one should do everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. Fourth point that he says is that one must stop the unrestricted intermingling of boys and girls. One must stop gambling, speculative businesses, slaughterhouses, and all forms of intoxication including chewing tobacco, smoking, drinking tea. They should all be prohibited. That will guide the general populace from the path of pravriti to nivritti. And Prabhupada says that these are very small sacrifices, but the result that one will get out of it is immense. Verse 39. Punascha yachamanaya jatarupam madat prabhu tato naratam madam kamam rajo vairam cha panchamam. The personality of Godhead asked for something more. And because of his begging, the king gave him permission to live where there is gold. Because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. So we see the age of Kali now acting on more than one platforms, right? So generally saying in Bhagavad Gita, and this appears in the 17th and 18th chapter, that charity in the mode of goodness is basically given freely and willingly, and it is accepted. So in India, we often see that there are beggars, and then you give them 1 rupee or 5 rupee. So first they'll take the rupee, they'll take the money, and then they'll say, give me more money. So this is charity in the mode of ignorance. The person says, no more money. And then I remember once we had gone to this place on, what's that place where there's a temple of Srimati Radharani. It's actually the temple is managed by the state of Rajasthan. And they open for a very short time. There are only 2 temples there. So because we had gone there when the temple was closed, so we were sitting there, and pretty soon there was like a large group of small boys who congregated. And we just kids, but that's what they do. They all started pulling our clothes, saying, paisa do, give me money, give me money. And then I made a mistake. I took out some money and gave it to them. And after that, things went really out of hand. The person who got the money, they started pulling more, give me money, give me more money. People who did not get money, they became really frantic. And the situation became really chaotic to the point that we were almost forced to leave. So we took the car and went somewhere else and came back. But that's charity in the mode of ignorance. The person is giving it grudgingly, and the people are taking it greedily. Even though Maharaj Parishit is not giving the charity grudgingly, but we see this mood of Kali Maharaj, of Kali over here, that the king has given him 4 places to live. Now he's again begging him. So what does Sutta says? Yachamanaya. So Yachman means begging. Yachmanaya means the one who's a beggar. And then he's addressing Maharaj Parishit as Prabhu, as master. So we see Kali begging in front of Maharaj Parikshit, begging for his own survival. So he was aware that he could not exist in these 4 places in the kingdom of Parishit Maharaj because of the expert administration of Parishit Maharaj. So driven by a strong desire to survive, he's asking for one more place to live. And Parishit Maharaj says that you can live where there is gold. He says Jat Rupam. So Jat Rupam, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, translates to gold that is used without the rules of dharma. So essentially this is gold that has been procured through illicit means, or gold that has been hoarded for sense gratification. Because the real purpose of the gold is to perform yagyas. One of the main paraphernalia in the yagyas is gold, which is why they say that now most of the yagyas, even if somebody knows the process, they cannot perform it because it requires enormous quantities of gold. So even when Yudhishthira Maharaj was planning to do the Rajasuya Yagya, and this is in the Dwapar Yuga, he found out that he didn't have enough gold in his treasury to perform the Rajasuya Yagya. I'm sorry, the Ashwamedha Yagya. After the Mahabharat war, Krishna asked him to do he actually did 3 Ashwamedha Yagyas. So that's when he sends Indra. And then that's when he sends Arjun. And then Arjun goes to the ancient kingdom of I forget the name, Mandhata or Maruta. But this was an ancient king who had actually excavated huge quantities of gold. And then he performed yagyas, and the Brahmanas who came, he gave them so much gold that they were not able to carry it. The utensils were gold, the yagya sthal was gold. So whatever little gold they wanted to take, they took, and rest of the gold they just threw it away. They threw the golden utensils in the dustbin. So they knew that, the sages knew that there is this place where gold is there. And then Arjun actually went there and got the gold for the performance of yagya. So Parishar Maharaj says that wherever there is gold, that is Jatarupam, that is not being used for the purpose of yagyas, or gold that has been procured through illicit means. So even though it's not mentioned in the Bhagavatam, and I don't remember if it is mentioned in the Mahabharata, but there are certain Puranas that mention that it was because of this that Parishit Maharaj had actually become bewildered and insulted Shaumik Rishi. Because it so happened that when he started out on his hunting that day, through a mistake of his servants, he was given a golden crown that belonged to one of the kings that he had conquered. And that king was a irreligious king. So the gold that he had obtained was through, even though Parishar Maharaj had not obtained it through irreligious mode, but that gold represented irreligiosity. So Kali was actually residing in the gold that Maharaj Parishad had worn on his head that day, and that's why he was able to bewilder Maharaj Parikshit. This is not generally accepted by Vaishnavas, because considering the Kali to be more powerful than a devotee is difficult to accept. So the Vaishnavas accept the approach that we will discuss later on, that this was essentially Krishna's mercy. Just like Arjun, Parishar Maharaj also did it as a service to Krishna. So hoarding of gold represents it mitigates the quality of charity. Charity is a representation of austerity. Why? Because when you earn something, then the primary driving force is that I have earned this for my own enjoyment. And when you give it away without expecting any returns, then it's an austerity of the senses. That this is for I, me, and mine, but I'm giving it away. So when gold is being hoarded, the quality of charity is being compromised, the pillar of austerity is being broken, and then as we saw, that when austerity is broken, purity gets broken, when purity is broken, mercy is broken, and then satyam or truthfulness is also compromised. In his commentary on these works, Jiva Goswami, he says that Kali resides anywhere where the gold is not used for religious purposes. And then Sridhar Swami says that if one wants to become a spiritual or a public leader, he should be free from attachment to women and gold. Otherwise, one cannot become a good man, a leader who desires everybody's upliftment. Udbhadtam chuhu. So, uh, so gold is known as Vairam Cha Pancham. And the understanding is that the four vices acting together, they come together in this fifth vice, which is gold. So Prabhupada in the commentary says that according to Srimad Bhagavatam, gold encourages falsity, intoxication, prostitution, envy, and enmity. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, and it's a fairly, it's interesting how Prabhupada has expertise in so many fields. So he talks about a gold, how when a currency is not gold backed, then the economy becomes very weak. So it's a interesting purport to read, very similar to, I was reading some years ago an article written by a famous economist, and you could almost get the sense that he's written Prabhupada's purport, because he's making the same point, that one of the biggest cheating that was done to the general citizen was when the currencies were dealing from the gold. Earlier on, a country could not issue any more currency than they possessed gold. So if they possess gold worth $1 billion, they can only print currency worth $1 billion. But now that linkage is not there. The currency is in trillions and trillions of dollars. So essentially, the government is just printing paper, and because of that, there are so many other fundamental things that are coming. So the economists basically said that they are printing IOUs that they will not be able to cash. The currency is basically IOUs given by the government. That I owe you $10, I owe you $100. But if there's no gold backing it, then it's as if a person is running a Ponzi scheme. That they're printing IOUs, they're making it look very decorative, they're giving it to people, but the expectation is that you never come back to us. But eventually, this person says, and then he goes beyond my level of comprehension, but he says that eventually people will have to go back and call on those IOUs. If not the people of your own country, people of other countries who have bought your debt, they will come to you and say that, like China right now, it holds almost $1 trillion of American debt. If China calls upon saying, give me your debt, then the economy of America will immediately collapse. Okay. So I'll do two more verses, and then I will go over the conversation between Maharaj Parikshit and Kali, and then stop for any questions or discussion. These are two small verses. 1740. Amuni panchasthanani hayadharma prabhavah kali aturrenya dattani nyavasattan nideshakrat. Thus the personality of Kali, by the direction of the Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, was allowed to live in those 5 places. So Hayadharma Prabhava. The Kali is described as Hayadharma Prabhava, that just by his influence, irreligiosity happens. Prabhava means Prabhav. Just by his influence, there is irreligiosity. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Nivasat. Nivasat is means dwelt. And so he says that this is in the accusative case, which means that something is being done to the subject, as opposed to the subject doing something. So this means that it's not that Kali lived in these 5 places. The mood of the verse is that Parikshit Maharaj forced the submission of Kali and forced him to live in this place. So Kali acted with very little independence, but he acted according to the direction of the king. And forced by the king, he he lived in this Nivasat. He lived in this 5 places, and Dattani. So Dattani is in conjunction with the action that the king has performed by the directions of the king, Dattani. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that this is the accusative sense, which means that indicates an active action directly performed by the king. So he's trying to show by how this verb is constructed that Maharaj Parishit, by his active engagement, forced Kali into submission and confined him into these 5 places. Verse 41. Ataitanina Shweta Bubushu Purusha Kvachit Visheshat Dharmashilo Raja Lokpatir Gurahu. Therefore, whoever desires progressive well-being, especially kings, religionists, public leaders, brahmanas, and sannyasis, should never come in contact with the 4 above mentioned irreligious principles. So, this is essentially the crux of this pastime. It is meant for everyone, that one should actively avoid being contaminated by these 4 manifestations of Kali: illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling and meat eating. But especially a certain class of people are being called out: the kings, religiousness, public leaders, brahmanas, and sannyasis. So Dharmashila. So Dharmashila are basically devotees. Those who are on the progressive, Dharmashila, those who are on the progressive path of liberation. So one should not think that I am a devotee, I am a Vaishnav, I have nothing to do with material modes of nature, I am Nitya Krishna Das, and then flirt with Kali. So they are saying that Dharmashila should avoid them. Then he says Raja as a king, and Lokapati. Lokapati is a public leader, and Guru, which is the brahmanas and the sannyasis. So the king is generally responsible for material welfare. The Lokapati or the public leaders, they are moral leaders because they don't have any office, but they are just famous. They're famous because of their qualities. So these are people who are leading by their subtle qualities. They may be honest, truthful, intelligent. And Guru are the Brahmanas and the Sannyasis who are spiritual leaders. So the point that is being made over here, that whether the person is a material leader, whether the person is a moral leader, whether the person is a spiritual leader, in all 3 situations, one must actively avoid this 4 above mentioned violation of religious principles. So no one is above them. So Dharmashila, devotees, absolutely not above them. Then Raja, the king, material leader, not above them. Lokapati, moral leaders, not above them. Guru, spiritual leaders, absolutely not above them. Okay, I'll stop over here, and because the conversation with Kali has also ended, so I'll go over the conversation with Kali and Parikshit Maharaj, And that will establish the flow in the chapter. The chapter is not ended, but the conversation with Kali is more or less ended. So Parikshit Maharaj, on seeing Kali, is asking him, who are you displaying powers? Balat. Kali says, I am a king, Bali. Parikshit Maharaj, since I am a king, Mat Sharane, how can you be the king? Kali, I am king because I am wearing the dress of the king, Ashiva Sheshna, and I am acting like a king, Naradeva. Parikshit Maharaj, no, not only are you not a king, but you are not even imitating a real king. A real king, Nathavat, imitates the object as truly as possible. But because you're beating a defenseless cow and a bull, you're not imitating the action of a king, but that of a Shudra. Kali, I am a different kind of king. Just as you're the king of the country, I am the king of this time. Thus, you have no power over me. Parikshit Maharaj, if you are the king of time, then even before Krishna departed with Arjun, where were you? Kali, I was present, but I did not have the power because of fear of them. Today, I have no fear. Parikshit Maharaj, fear me, you pitiable person. You deserve to die today. Kali, I am dressed as a Kshatriya, and it is against Satya Dham to surrender. Parikshit Maharaj, see the sword in my hand, O Shudra dressed as a king, come to fight with me. Thus, I will quickly kill you. Kali, it is not possible for me to fight with you. So best for me to abandon the pretense of being a king, and to protect myself, I surrender unto you. Parikshit Maharaj, since you have surrendered, I cannot kill you. If I were to kill a person who has surrendered unto me, the irreligion that I am appearing to protect will actually strengthen and spread. You will not die, and you will enter even into me. Kali, O king, thank you for sparing my life. Parikshit Maharaj, we have inherited the fame of Arjun. Therefore, since you have surrendered yourself with folded hands, you need not fear for your life. Kali, I am happy to be protected by you. Parikshit Maharaj, this plan has been enacted by the Lord. Therefore, you have been protected by me and from me, even though the best course of action would have been to kill you. Kali, please give me a place to stay. Parikshit Maharaj, you cannot remain in my kingdom because you're a friend of irreligion. Kali, but I have already surrendered unto you. Why are you banishing me from your kingdom? Parikshit Maharaj, because of the faults of your nature. Under your influence, even demigods, what to speak of humans, follow the path of adharma. Kali, how can you say that? Parikshit Maharaj, because wherever you go, certain qualities follow you completely, anuprata. When you are situated in men or devas, they also enter them. Kali, what kinds of qualities? Parikshit Maharaj, inferior qualities, anaryam. These are treachery, misfortune, cheating, kala, quarrel, and vanity. Kali, but these qualities are already existing. Why hold me responsible? Parikshit Maharaj, in Brahmavarta, earth, everyone is still situated in dharmena satyena, in true dharma. Kali, so what is the place that you assign for me? Parikshit Maharaj, O friend of irreligion, you do not deserve to remain in a place where experts perform sacrifices according to truth and religious principles for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kali, I agree that the principles of dharma need to be followed. These very principles indicate that even the devas should be worshipped. I am a demigod. Instead of worshipping me, why are you banishing me? Parikshit Maharaj, the Supreme Lord is the soul of all such devas. And these devas are all forms of Him. He alone distributes material and spiritual happiness, kama and sham. Like the air, He exists and can be realized from inside and outside. If you exist here, this will not be possible. My duty is ultimately only to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kali. But you have already offered me protection, Parikshit Maharaj. Yes, if you follow my instructions, you are protected. If you do not follow my order, I will kill you right now. Thus, I will have no fault. Kali. O King of the whole earth, you control the entire world. After being banished from your kingdom, I do not have any place to live. Therefore, even though I have surrendered unto you, you may as well kill me right now. Parishar Maharaj, I stand by my words. I will protect anyone and everyone who is surrendered. Kali. Therefore, O chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix a place where I can stay always, permanently protected by you. Parishar Maharaj, reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter are performed. Kali, in your kingdom, there is no such places present. Please, 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 I beg you, give me one more place to stay. Parishar Maharaj, you have my permission to live where there is gold. Because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. Kali, so be it. From today onwards, I will reside in these 5 places permanently under your protection. Rishit Maharaj ki jai. So, I think I took most of the time, but I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or comments.
Prabhu, just a comment about the crown of Parikshit Maharaj. You said it's not in the Bhagavatam.
No, Prabhu.
Okay, but in the Ramanan Sagar, I think Ramanan Sagar film, it was there. Is it part of another scriptures or?
So I didn't get time. I don't remember reading it in the Mahabharata also, Prabhu. But I'm not 100% sure if it's there or not in the Mahabharata. But it is there in one of the Upapuranas, where it says that this was a king who was a treacherous king, and Maharaj Parishad conquered him. And as part of the conquest, the kings are supposed to surrender the crown. So it was in Maharaj Parishad's, I guess, vault, and he took it carelessly. So some of the pastimes in the Puranas are a kind of, especially the Upapuranas, they are a little bit, so I'm not sure how to reconcile them. You know, sometimes, like in one of the Upapuranas, it is mentioned that Shringi is actually the son of Maharaj Parikshit. That he is not the son of Shaumik Rishi. Shaumik's daughter was, well, for the lack of a better word, she had a relationship with Parikshit Maharaj. And Shringi was born, but Shringi knew that Maharaj Parikshit was his father, but that's why he has special hatred for him, because he never accepted him. So that's a small mistake, he cursed him. But these are all, you know, these are all Alpa Puranas, Upa Puranas. Some of them we don't even know if they're valid Puranas. So it's difficult to assert it. So that's why, you know, this whole pastime of gold, I don't know. I mentioned it just because it's there somewhere, but I don't know the source of it.
Yeah, I remember watching it in one of those serial long time before.
I see. I see.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other question? Okay, so we'll stop here. Vanchakalpatarubhayaschat kripa sindhubhyaeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। शीला प्रभुपाद की जय। निधाय गौर प्रेमानंद। हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्ण। Thank you very much.